I'm going to show you how to tune the violin using pizzicato. Pizzicato is the best method to tune the violin if you're a beginner and you haven't started using the bow yet, or if you don't quite feel confident enough with the bow to tune the violin using the bow. Once you do feel confident with the bow, I would always recommend tuning with the bow because you can hear the sound of the strings better, but tuning using pizzicato will get you started. So traditionally we start tuning the A string first. The A string is the second highest string, so the E is the highest and the A string is the second highest string. And we tune the A string to what's known as concert pitch. In the UK that's A440 or 440 Hertz. In Europe it's often A442, which is a little bit higher. So depending on where you live, you may want to tune to A440 or A442. And find yourself a keyboard or a tuning app or a set of pitch pipes so that you can hear the sound of an A before you start tuning. So it's very important to have the sound of the note in your mind while you're tuning the string. So my metronome has A at 440, a concert pitch, and that sounds like this. So sing that note to yourself. La, la, so that you've got the sound of the note in your head. Now keep that sound in your mind and try to match the sound of your A string to that note. So at the moment my violin's in tune, but I'm going to detune it now. Just going to loosen the peg a little bit so that it's out of tune. So you can hear now that my violin is flat. That means it's too low. The string's too low, which means the string is too loose, and we need to tighten the string to raise the pitch up to concert pitch. So there's my flat A string, and I want it to sound like this. La, la. So you can hear that it's a bit flat. So the way I tune using pizzicato is I rest the violin against my leg, like that, and I hold the violin around the neck and shoulders so that my thumb is free to pluck the string. And then, while I pluck the string with my thumb, I turn the peg and push it into the peg box at the same time. So when you turn the peg, you always need to push it into the peg box, and that's why it's good to hold the violin this way, because you can push against your left hand. Before you start turning the peg, always loosen it a little bit, like that, and then turn and push, while constantly checking the sound of the string with your thumb. Now plucking the string with your thumb so that you don't go too far. So again, hear the sound of the note in your head. La. Now slowly turn the peg until the sound more or less matches the pitch of the note. Now that's almost right, it's a little bit too high. So if we check against my metronome, it's a tiny bit too high. Quite often the best thing to do if it's just a tiny little bit too high, and if you don't have a fine tuner, I'll come to fine tuners later, but if you don't have a fine tuner on the A, just give the string a bit of a pull. And that will just lower the string very slightly, so that you now have got the string a concert pitch. La. And if the string's a little bit too low, you can just push it down the other side of the nut here. That can raise the pitch very slightly. So those make tiny little adjustments. You can lower it a tiny little bit by pulling it just gently, or raise the pitch a tiny bit just by pushing it above the nut slightly. But those are quite subtle changes. The biggest change is made using the peg. So I'm just going to show you one more time. We rest the violin against your leg, put your hand around the neck and shoulders so your thumb is free, pluck the string using your thumb, and then if I just loosen the string now, so it's flat, loosen the string, loosen the peg very slightly before you turn, and then turn and push while checking the pitch. And then check the pitch against your pitch pipe or your metronome. Yeah, now that sounds right. It may take a bit of practice to get used to matching the sound of the pizzicato to the sound of your pitch pipe or to the A that you've got, your reference A. But don't worry, just keep trying. once you've got it more or less in tune, or once you think it's right, you can then check the pitch with a digital tuning app, which you can download onto a phone or whatever. And that's a good way of checking that you've got the tuning right. But try not to rely on a tuning app. Try to do it yourself first, so that you're training your ear and getting used to the sound, and just getting used to the idea of tuning the violin. And then, if it's not right, don't worry, just fix it using the tuning app. But always try to do it yourself first, because it's a really good way of training your ear. So now we'll tune the D string. The D string is 5 notes lower than an A, so the A sounds like this, la, and the D is 5 notes lower, la 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 la. So you may find it helpful to sing that to yourself, or just listen to the sound of the note on a keyboard or a pitch pipe. So the D should sound 5 notes lower than the A. La 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 la. That's a D. So with the sound of the D in your head, la la, check the sound of your string against that note. Now my D string's a little bit too high, it's a little bit sharp. I want it to sound like this, la, but it sounds like this. So the method is the same for the D, except we hold the violin the other way around. Put your right hand against the neck and shoulder of the violin so that your right thumb is free to pluck the string. Loosen the peg, and then slowly turn the peg while checking the pitch of the string. So that's more or less right now. If you haven't quite got it right, loosen the string, loosen the peg again, and tune it up again. And again, if it's not quite right, you can just give the string a little tug. More or less right now. And if you're not sure, again check that with a pitch pipe, with a tuning app, just to make sure you've got it exactly right. So the G string's tuned in the same way. I'm just tuning my G string up. The moment it's right, again check the pitch with a pitch pipe or a keyboard. So there, I'm going to tune it up now, plucking the string with my thumb and turning the peg and pushing it into the peg box. Okay, so that's my G. La. There we go. So if you haven't quite got it right, just loosen it a bit more and tune up again. So we always start by loosening the peg and then tune up to the note. So always tune up to the note. So finally we'll tune the E string. Now the E string is 5 notes higher than the A. La 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 la. It's a bit high for me to sing. 5 notes higher than the A. So my E string's in tune at the moment. So I'm going to make it a little bit out of tune, but this time I'm going to show you how to tune it with a fine tuner. So I'm going to make my E string flat. So it's a bit flat. I'm going to show you how to tune that string with a fine tuner. I usually tune my E with a fine tuner rather than the peg, just because it tends not to go that out of tune. If it goes really out of tune, you need to tune with a peg, but if it's only a small adjustment and you have a fine tuner, then I would suggest using the fine tuner. So, holding the violin in my left hand, using my left thumb to pluck the string, I'm going to turn the fine tuner slowly until the note sounds right. And again, check that with your tuning app, just double check that you've got that right. So the E string is the one that's most likely to break if you turn it too far. So when you're tuning with the peg, do it very carefully, don't go too far. You can't break the string using the fine tuner, or it would be quite difficult to, because it only makes small adjustments. But still turn it slowly and keep checking so that you don't go too far.